What's the current state of the workforce? So today I want to talk about three things. What's the current state of job demand here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg? What are some trending topics in workforce and in the economy? And then what can Charlotte Works do to help businesses dealing with these issues here today? And so the first thing I want to talk about is the current state of job demand in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And so we've been hearing about increasing job postings nationally, but also hearing about locally and nationally companies doing hiring freezes. And so we'll get back to some of that conversation around what might be driving some of those hiring freezes. But starting with just the overall job demand, we've seen strong demand here locally for positions. And so you can see over the past 30 days in July, you see we had over 143,000 unique job postings. And then here's a breakdown of the top positions that we saw in July. You can see software developers had over 5,000 postings, registered nurses had over 4,000 postings, and sales reps had over 3,000 postings. And then here you can also see the white bar indicates how many job postings each of these positions had in that given month. That blue bar indicates how many days that position was open for. So basically, roughly how many days to hire did that take in terms of going from a job posting to finalizing your candidates and closing that posting out. And so you can see software developers, the time to hire was one at the lower end, 29 days. And you can see mostly with most of these positions, there's a little bit of a correlation between that days active and the salary. The higher that salary is in general, the shorter we see that days active, the average duration of that job posting, where on the converse, you can see over on the far right-hand side, fast food workers taking an average of 44 days, and they have the lowest wages here on this list. And so the next thing I want to talk about here is, again, given all of the job postings we're seeing, what are some of those trends, larger trends we're seeing in workforce and in the economy? And so we've talked about this in a previous video, but one of the things we are still seeing is increasing inflation. And so again, between July of last year and July of this year, we saw an 8% increase in inflation nationally. So again, increasing cost of goods, driving wage growth, driving a lot of people to look for ways to increase their wages just to keep pace with the cost of goods. And then another thing we're hearing about now is obviously the economic slowdown that we've seen in Q2 and Q1 for 2022. So technically we are in a recession, but you'll notice you probably haven't heard a lot about that right now. Economists generally aren't raising alarm bells yet, as most people don't think that this is going to persist. Again, we had a technical recession at the start of 2020 with the pandemic, where we had those 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP growth, and then we had strong growth after that. And so we will be very interested to see kind of what happens in Q3 when those Q3 numbers are released later this year. But again, this goes back to what we were talking about with some of the companies pausing on hiring right now. So kind of waiting to see the overall trend of the economy before companies are really making those long-term commitments right now. So again, kind of a wait and see here to see if this recession is just kind of a little blip or if this is going to be a pattern that we're going to see persist. Another trend we're seeing in workforce right now is a rise in what are called Boomerang employees. And so you might have remembered or seen from our previous videos the Great Resignation, a number of individuals leaving their jobs and quitting their jobs altogether. Well, the new trend is a lot of individuals are returning to their previous employer. So rather than just jumping to a new job, they're going to a new job and then they're coming back, or they're just quitting and taking a hiatus and then coming back to their previous employer. And what we see with these Boomerang employees is they're getting on average a 28% wage increase. And so most people that are just leaving jobs see around a 10% wage increase. So they're seeing a wage increase far above even those levels for just switching positions. And again, like I said, this is a rising trend. We're seeing a 15% increase in these Boomerang or return employees between 2019 and 2021. So again, something we'll continue to keep an eye on to see if this is kind of a trend that continues. We're hearing a number of HR professionals saying that this is kind of a new approach to deal with the talent shortage, to deal with their hiring issues. Again, having someone that understands the company culture, understands the practices, and takes less time to onboard. So again, real value to hiring these individuals. And so really the last thing I wanted to talk about again is just if you're dealing with any of these issues, how can Charlotte Works help? And so as a reminder, if you have a business need involving people, we can help. So basically anything that involves employees, Charlotte Works can provide no cost assistance. And so that really breaks down into these two areas in terms of talent acquisition needs and talent retention needs. So if you need help recruiting or sourcing talent, Charlotte Works can help. If you just need help developing retention strategies or best practices, Charlotte Works can help with that as well. And again, all of these services are at no cost. So if you're interested in any of these services, please contact us at any of the contact points listed on the screen. But that's all I have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed this quick labor market update.